Welcome, I'm Adamnator, that's Vanna White, and this is Doom Month. Why? I don't know, I started playing the Doom games and I thought it'd be cool to talk about them. Actually, even though Doom's only turning 24 this year, I figured I'd get a leg up on all the chumps who'll try to cash in next year. So over the course of October, I'll basically just be covering a bunch of Doom games because I think they're fucking awesome and I think the idea of doing so is fucking awesome. Now I know some of you may be asking, is this replacing Lovecraft Games Part 3? No, this is just Doom Part 1. Sorry. Before I really get into talking about the game, I wanted to go ahead and preface this by stating that I played both Doom and Doom 2 slightly modded on GZ Doom. See, when I wasn't planning Doom Month and just recreationally playing through the series, all I wanted was essentially the unadulterated game, but with mouse look. I can't stand that old moving with the mouse early FPS staple, so I basically just got Brutal Doom and made sure all the new blood elements and extra gore was turned off. Speaking of said blood and gore, I'm really not a fan of the way it looks. Brutal Doom is cool in theory, I guess, but personally, I just feel like it ruins the simplicity of old school Doom, but that's just my take. Saying that Doom is the gold standard of FPS games is like saying I can't believe It's Not Butter is the gold standard of hydrogenated vegetable oil spreads. You're pretty sure you agree, but have this nagging feeling like it doesn't even matter at this point. At least before Half-Life, I suppose, but that was more of a passing of the torch situation anyway. They're different enough, you know, in Doom you got demons from hell on Mars, in Half-Life we got aliens from Zen on Earth, but the simplicity in subject matter inspires this feeling of urgency and tension they both share. However, that's definitely where their tones diverge, and that's clearly displayed by counting the difference of seconds in between enemies. As you can see, where Doom gets very intense, Half-Life is often just tense. But for all their differences, their stark similarities are even more blatant on a purely technical level. Now a quick disclaimer, and this isn't meant to be condescending, which is rich coming from me, but let me quickly define this phrase people throw around called a game engine. Back in 3rd grade, did you ever go back to the computer lab with your class and were told to make an excessively festive desktop wallpaper in Microsoft Paint? Think of your shitty yet charming wallpaper as the game and Paint as the engine. I think more people know of engines like Unity and Unreal, but at least for me, when I heard the phrase Doom engine, it was always hard to connect that to the same sort of toolkit-like software Unity and Unreal bring to mind. And the Doom engine's still ahead of Unity. That explanation was for anyone out there who may not be aware of the general idea because you have normal adult things to worry about and aren't caught up in the culture of children's video game toys like I am.
Hydrobot, taking it to the next level, that was sick!
Why are we still here? Just to suffer.
So basically, it goes like this. id Software went on from their success on Doom and Doom 2 and the Doom engine, or more accurately, id Tech 1, to make Quake in the Quake engine, which had another name that wasn't id Tech 2, as id Tech 2 would be the Quake 2 engine, and then Valve, being one of the many modifying the Quake engine to create engines of their own, introduced the Gold Source engine to the world with the release of Half-Life in November 1998. You get all that? Good, because there's a quiz, and teachers not feeling very lenient this Monday. I hate Mondays, and I also hate Jim Davis's cartoon classic Garfield. What a conundrum! But they say the best exams are practical, so let's actually get this ball rolling. It may surprise you to learn that Doom not only actually has a plot, but it has the most unnecessarily detailed plot of any mindless killing FPS that I can recall. You're Doom Guy, a space marine that's been forcefully relocated to Mars after assaulting your commanding officer on Earth. The reason you attacked him is actually the interesting part, though. You punched his goddamn lights out because the officer ordered your squad to fire upon civilians, and Doom Guy wasn't having any of that shit. So this guy you're going around as the whole game, Violent Mr. McKill, has a good set of morals to go along with those gigantic demon-slaying balls. Someone tell Jack Thompson he was wrong the whole time.
The game, Doom. Though the $130 million suit was dismissed, Thompson is still convinced that these images inspired 3 murders.
But for the influence of his training literally on the game Doom, very violent first-person shooter video game, he would not have killed.
The company you're stationed to work at is experimenting on teleportation tech and accidentally opens a portal to hell, and the next thing you know, demons are everywhere and suddenly you're the cleanup crew. Pretty damn detailed for the genre at the time. Like people say, it was a trendsetter, and trendset it did, with its level design being praised to this day. I'm definitely a big fan of it. Its engaging enemy placement and relatively shallow puzzle elements make for some brilliant challenges and a pretty damn satisfying feeling of progression. You never feel actively hindered by anything in the game if you're adequately prepared, but that preparedness can look like many different things as you're given a lot of different means to your successes. I mean weapons. Awesome weapons. I really like the plasma gun personally. It's a bit weird that I do though, as I usually like firearms in games that have a good punch to them, so of course I find myself gravitating to the basic shotgun, which is sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum from the plasma gun. It kind of feels like it's the weapon with the least bang for your buck when firing, but it surprisingly does a pretty damn good amount of damage. I think the cause of my feeling that way could be a combination of its design not really standing out all that much and the strange noise it makes upon firing. I like the noise, just for some reason it doesn't inspire much confidence.
Alright, so there are also these spheres. I think they call them Doom spheres. I almost glossed over them because they're kind of mundane to me. They give you like special abilities and stuff, which is cool, but I don't know, I just never really cared much for them. Like, sure, they helped me the fuck out in some places, but really they were just kind of more of a novelty to me. I mean, granted, in some areas they're essential, but I don't know, I mean, I just never really cared that much. Alright, I'll admit, they're cool.
But anyway, your entourage of ammunition is what lets you just rip through baddies at a gratifying pace. However, I can understand how the game's sort of maze-like structure might bother people. I'm even hesitant to agree with that descriptor, but I can definitely sympathize with people who don't want to use a map, feeling a bit lost in the larger levels. You know how it goes. What I found really interesting while playing through Doom initially was its episodic structure. Like I said before, I never really associated the idea of Doom, a hardcore FPS game, with really having a structure at all. I feel like that's probably because of the XD gamer humor trope of you're basically just a guy who wants to kill demons, or so much gore, so no bore. I always thought it was a linear run and gun experience, but no, it has essentially a 3-act structure. Knee deep in the dead, the first episode takes place on one of Mars's moons, Phobos, and is the one I think most people will recognize footage from, and of course the Episode 1 Mission 1 music. I like it a lot. However, it's a bit too basic in level design for me. I like me them giant maps. But its simplicity lends itself well to getting familiarized with demon behavior, key finding, and relatively easier secrets than later on. Trust me. If you think knee deep in the dead is rough, just wait. So you trek your way on through hordes of zombies, other space marines who've been infected by the plot, imps, the brown screeching projectile launching assholes, and demons, the big old pink hugger boys. The enemies are relatively consistent and you start to get used to handling them. And then at the end of Knee Deep, all of a sudden you go up against 2 Hell Barons. These things are initially terrifying, and you're up against 2. You strafe for your life as these things come at you. And then just a few stages later, you're encountering them just, you know, out and about in stages. The game ramps up, but it does it at a really good pace. Near the end, you'll be taking these things out faster than my wife when you think I've left town, and also think I didn't install security cameras. I know what's going on, Travis, you fuck. After beating episode 1, it's on to episode 2, The Shores of Hell. This one takes place on Deimos, Mars' second moon. After defeating the Barons of Hell, you teleported yourself over to Deimos, only to find that the situation here is even worse than on Phobos. What are the odds? Not only are there bigger baddies and badder biggies to encounter, like the renowned Kako demons, the annoying as hell Lost Souls, and a big ol' final battle with the Cyber Demon, the levels here are biggier and more impressive. A lot of the Mission 2 maps have their own neat little quirks. After skillfully making your way to the episode's boss, and watching the demon's progress on the map building the Hell Tower, you're suddenly in an octagon-shaped room with dead Hell Barons on the wall. What boss could possibly be as audacious to hang the previous ones on the fucking walls? While your mind races with the possibilities, my mind races about race relations. While your mind races with the possibilities, the music only helps to raise the anxiety levels. As I exited the room and looked around, I realized my timing was absolutely perfect because the Cyber Demon came into view just as the beat kicked in. It was like fate. Now would be a good time to quickly talk about the music. Like I've mentioned, the music in this game is stunningly fitting and is tenser than the springs in a physics lab supply closet. It's also Slayer, Pantera, and Metallica inspired, so you know you're in for a treat whenever a new track graces your ears. But anyway, the cyber demon only attacks with a rocket launcher, so as long as you're quick to dodge his projectiles, you can stand a decent ways away and wail on him. Man, something about these death animations is just the coolest thing. The sprite animation is just too good. But finally, you basically then descend into hell and take on the demons on their home turf. So into hell we go! Episode 3, Inferno. Ah, fuck, I didn't mean to make that rhyme. Shit. Everything's red here. It's gotta be easy being an interior decorator in hell.
Yeah, put the red bricks over there, right next to the giant cubes with our faces on them.
All of Doom's level backgrounds look great, but I really like the background for hell. It's just a mountainscape turned completely red, and there's something neat about how goddamn simple it is. Hell's levels can get a bit much. They're longer than any others and tend to drag on just a tad, especially if you're trying to 100%. But honestly, they have some of the best scares around and are loaded with adrenaline-rushing, heart-pounding action. Look, there really isn't much more to say about the levels, so let's just cut to the chase.
Add a spoiler warning here.
You finally get to the last boss and can nearly smell a Ninja Turtles lawsuit. It looks like Krang. The joke is that it's Krang from Ninja Turtles. The final bout is against the Spider Demon, who planned the invasion. He can deliver some rapid-fire pain, so your best bet is standing in or around the middle storage room and just launching rockets and energy at him. After what seems like forever, you take him down. You breathe a sigh of relief. The invasion stopped, the perpetrator's dead, and finally you're able to go home. The game delivers a wall of text explaining that Hell finally decides to play fair and opens a teleporter to Earth. We cut to green grass and a cute little bunny just minding his own business, being a fucking rabbit. However, we're quickly thrown for a loop as the camera pans over, the music becomes increasingly sinister, and we see a nearby city on fire, the flames churning out incredible amounts of smoke, and finally a fucking rabbit's head impaled on a stake! This is such an interesting direction they took this in, and I'm honestly in love with it. Well, the rabbit part still creeps me out, as since I was a kid. But honestly, if the ending was anything else, I think it'd feel out of place. I've heard this ending described as being a big fuck you before, and I honestly couldn't disagree more. While your efforts weren't in vain, you just weren't able to prevent Earth being invaded. This disappointment is only prompted after a feeling of contentment brought upon by the calming image of the first bunny, effectively making the ending less of a truly shocking and potentially unsatisfying reveal. Plus, the absurdity of it all adds some much-needed levity, and you can really see the dev team's sense of humor shine through with the dead rabbit bit. Why is this even a thing? Did a demon really take the time to stick a rabbit's head on a fucking stake? It's nonsensical, yet it totally works. And that's the end of Doom Month Part 1. Tune back in next week for a consistent upload. Saying that out loud legitimately scares me. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed me endlessly blabber on about one of the most influential shooters of all time. I legitimately think franchises like Call of Duty wouldn't be where they were today if it wasn't for the innovations of Doom all those years ago. BRB, going back in time and destroying every copy of Doom.